Hi guys, good evening. Welcome back once again to the EdWord. I'm your host Eddie, and in tonight's video I will be doing my episode review and recap for episode 8 of season 2, episode 7 of season 2 of The Strain. Now before I proceed, of course, as usual with all my review videos, be warned this will be full of big spoilers. So if you're not caught up on The Strain, do not continue watching or listening to this video. You have been warned. That being said, once again, I really liked it. I felt like Palmer hooking up with his younger assistant was mostly pretty gross and, well, I don't want to say unnecessary, but at the same time, it kind of feels like it would be, or it is, because it's like the Master and Eichhorst would probably feel Palmer would become distracted from the ultimate goal and that his assistant could pose a threat to their plans if she finds out what's really going on with Palmer, the Strigoi, the Master, everything. So they might have to her pretty soon. And the Master and Eichhorst, actually now I think about it, they might not give two shits about it as long as Palmer keeps doing his job. But they'll give two shits about it if she finds out what's really going on and what's really happening with this crisis in New York. But I don't know. I mean, it was kind of nasty because if Satrakian is supposed to be 93 or 94, how old does that make Palmer? Probably the same age, because if they met each other way back in the 60s and they were both pretty young guys, he's probably a few years older, if not a bit younger than Satrakian, so he's like old enough to be her grandfather or something. I don't know. But overall, that's not the main focus point. We finally got some backstory on that mysterious sun hunter who showed up an episode ago, and it turns out his name is Quinland, and I believe, like the legend goes, according to Satrakian, who's doing the narration in the opening of the scene, and we see a flashback to the Roman Empire days, Quinland is a half-breed, half-human, half Strigoi, which could explain his ability to be out in the sunlight unlike his fellow Strigoi, including wild Strigoi and his fellow sun hunters. So he's half human, half Strigoi. And when they said half-breed, I'm like, half-breed? Who would have sex with a Strigoi knowingly or willingly? Probably no one. And I'm like, oh god, does that mean? And sure enough, further into the episode, after Quinlan saves Fett and Satrakian from the Feelers, the blind kids who turned into Strigoi, he has this awesome little action sequence where he takes them all out single-handedly in creative ways, which was really cool. I think my favorite and possibly the nastiest moment in this episode is when he cuts one of the Feelers in half and it's like crawling backwards with its arms, and then he like steps on the dragging intestines and then finishes it off. I was like, ugh, cool, but yuck. At least there wasn't any barfing of the worms into somebody's mouth in this episode, so we should be grateful for that. But excuse me. But anyway, we got some backstory on him, and during that same scene, when they realize this is the Master's nesting ground, and he reveals to Satrakian, I got your name from the Ancients, and Fett's kind of in the dark about this. He's like, who the hell are the Ancients? What's he talking about? Satrakian, on the other hand, seems completely intrigued with this new Sun Hunter, this new potential ally, because he doesn't directly threaten Satrakian or Fett. In fact, he has absolutely no interest in them. He kind of thanks him in a way, because he's like, the Master, he really gives him a huge compliment, because he says the Master has taken many forms over the years, usually by choice, but nobody has ever forced him to assume another shape or another form. Meaning he's really given kudos to Satrakian, who injured the Master so badly it forced the Master to dominate another body, another being. So he's basically saying to Satrakian, good work, keep up the good work, but I'm going to kill the Master, he's my beef. And like, what could possibly make him hate the Master so much? Is he a Sun Hunter? Yes. But why? What's with this personal beef? Like, he's really made it his personal mission to get the master. And sure enough, while they're playing a little antagonizing game of tag with each other, going back and forth, insulting each other, Quinland and the master, with Eichhorst at his side, and of course Abraham fittingly at the side of Quinland, it's revealed that it's heavily implied that the master raped and impregnated Quinlan's mother, who was probably human, and as a result, Quinlan was born, making him half Strigoi, half human, with the appearance of a Strigoi and some of their abilities and powers, but still fairly human for the most part, which could explain why he's able to stay out in the sunlight longer than other Strigoi. And of course, this infuriates Quinlan, who tries to charge him, but unfortunately, speaking of charges, unfortunately, Fett's charges go off, which Satrakian had him plant all over the factory when Quinlan revealed to them this was the master's nesting site, so they had that destroyed. And Fett has this hilarious line where he walks past the construction workers like, hey, where are you going? Do you guys have an emergency alarm response system in this place? Yeah? Well, tell them a bomb threat just called in. From who? From me! And he holds up his sticks of dynamite. They all go running. Plants the dynamite. He sets them off. And they're hoping that kills the master, but of course it doesn't. And it's too bad too, because I was really looking forward to seeing a big fight scene between the master, Eichhorst, Satrakian, and Quinland. Because the master makes a little comment. Quinland makes a little comment about, all right, now we have a fair, appropriate duel, so it can begin. Saying like the two pairs will take each other on and fight, because Eichhorst was right there, ready to defend the master, and Satrakian rejoined Quinland. But unfortunately, Eichhorst and the master escape. Quinland's pretty pissed about that, telling Satrakian, "You may have cost me my one opportunity to get the master. Now he's gone, and now I must find him." Alone. He doesn't even entertain an offer of Satrakian's help, but then Satrakian and Fett are forced to leave because they hear sirens approaching. Meanwhile, while all this is going on, F has made it safely back to New York. They don't really show it how, but obviously he makes it back. He's in a drunken stupor because his plans have fallen apart. He's lost his very close friend and the fling that he had, the woman he was with, and he's just in a complete state of drunkenness, and he's, just full-on raging alcoholic, and he seems completely hopeless, but there's still a spark in him. You can tell there's something that's in him that's driving him to keep going, even though we don't really see it that well. But the big focus point, one of the big focus points of this episode, besides Quinlan's backstory and F's return, was the relationship tension between Fett and Dutch, because these two have obviously become an item. But when they go back to her apartment to get her clothes, who should they find hiding under the stairs? Her old roommate slash lover, Nikki, the woman who ran out on them in season 1 during my favorite episode when they were all trapped in the convenience store. Her roommate Nikki takes off, leaving her lover behind and all the other characters trapped and surrounded by Strigoi. Well, of course, they all made it out, but that's the last we've ever seen of Nikki. And now she's hiding in under the stairs in their apartment this whole time. And they decide to bring her back, and you can tell it really pisses off and bothers Fett, because now he's afraid his girlfriend, her emotions and feelings for her ex-roommate and lover will rekindle within her. Because, she and Fett had started to become a thing, and Fett's starting to like her, and of course this just pisses him off. Plus, he's also upset with the fact that he seems to think Nikki is no good for Dutch, and especially pointing out the fact that somebody mysteriously stole all of Dutch's money and her laptop way back in season 1 when Nikki first disappeared. And that was most likely her. But, he's just pissed at the fact that his girlfriend's ex is back in the picture now. So, but of course they bring her back to Fett's place to rejoin the others. And this causes Fett to start lashing out at some of the other characters, like Nora, F. Like, he and F almost get into a little fight or a scuffle because F makes some smart-ass remark, and it pisses off Fett. But he's like, hey, no, that's great, yeah, everybody's welcome here. Let's all have a big dinner together. He's just so pissed about it. And you can tell he's angry. And, Nikki and Dutch, Dutch is trying to get answers from Nikki as to why she did what she did. And, how she actually even advises her to call her mother who resents and hates her, but let her know that she's safe and sound and alive. But, it just pisses off poor Fett. I felt bad for him for most of this episode. I was like, oh, man, talk about one hell of a cock block. But, he and F go drinking. Well, not together. They do meet at the bar later. And F, of course, is an alcoholic, and he's there because he feels like his mission to DC was a failure. And unfortunately, Palmer, according to one of Palmer's sources, tell him that F survived his assassination attempt, but the bioweapon has been secured by friendly hands, according to Palmer's head of security. And Palmer, of course, is still agitated that F is alive, but at least they have the bioweapon. But fortunately for our main characters, even Nora points it out that F and her can create another serum of their new strain and make it even more lethal and more effective against the Strigoi, and then try deploying it again later. It's all a matter of time. But F, of course, is feeling pretty bad about it. But like I said earlier, he's got that spark, that drive in him. There's something that's not letting him give up. And sure enough, when Fett asks him, so what are you going to do next? After they talk about, because they kind of open up with each other about Fett's upset that Dutch's roommate / lover has returned and is now staying in his place with them and the rest of the characters, and how that's going to probably interfere with he and Dutch's relationship and situation. And then F opens up about his friends getting killed in DC and how his plans didn't go accordingly. So Fett's like, well, what are you going to do now? What's your next step? And then the last shot is like F staring just off into the distance. I'm going to kill Eldritch Palmer. And it's like, ooh, that's quite a threat. And if they were to kill Eldritch Palmer, this could really set back and delay a lot of the plans and operations that the Master and Palmer have in place. It could really fuck with the whole Strigoi movement. So, whether or not they actually, that F actually carries out this plan remains to be seen. But it does show you that he hasn't completely given up. He's still determined to fight and defeat the Strigoi and Palmer, especially Palmer, since Palmer, like he pointed out to Nora earlier in the episode, has always been 5 steps ahead of them. And it's true, because Palmer's been in league with the Master and I-Course this whole time. Even before the plane landed, everything was planned and carried out the way that they had planned it out. So hopefully, we get to see if F carries out on his threat or not. But, and then, of course, hopefully we see more of Quinland. He's proving to be an interesting character. I like how the episode opened with his flashback telling his origin story. He was like a gladiator in ancient Roman times, and then the senator was his sponsor, and basically was a fighter his whole life and has spent his entire Strigoi / human life searching for the Master, probably because the Master is his illegitimate father, since it's implied the Master raped and impregnated his human mother. So this is really, really personal for Quinland, as it is for Satrakian. So hopefully Satrakian, Quinland, and the rest of our main characters will ally with Quinland at some point this season or in the series, hopefully this season. And hopefully Gus and the Silver Angel are brought into our main group of survivors as well. Hopefully they all team up at some point and really take the Master and the rest of the Strigoi head on. So hopefully we see that. But overall, great episode. Really enjoyed it. Some great gory Strigoi kills, some funny one-liners from Fett, and as much as it's unfortunate to see our characters in pain or disrepair, they have some pretty good one-liners, and it's still kind of amusing to watch. Even though these are characters we care about, it's like their anguish is like, because it's like, it's funny when they're mad. Like, they're funny when they're mad or upset, but they don't stay upset for long. So hopefully Dutch and Fett come back to each other's arms, and Nikki just stays out of the picture. Like, she can stay as a part of the group, but she stays out of Fett and Dutch's way. But, yeah, great episode. I really, really liked it. I very much enjoyed it. Not sure how things are going to turn out with Palmer and his assistant. Like I said, that was kind of gross and also seems kind of unnecessary, but who knows? Maybe it will prove to be extremely necessary in the next coming episodes or before this season ends. So overall, Really liked it. Really good. Hope you guys enjoyed it too. Thanks again for tuning in here on the EdWord for all of your recap and review needs. Don't forget to like this video, comment, and sound off down below. What did you guys like about tonight's episode? You know, what was enjoyable for you? Did you like Quinland's backstory? What do you think is going to happen with different characters' relationships, like Alt Palmer and his assistant, or Fett and Dutch? You know, sound off down below. Don't forget to subscribe, of course, and stay tuned for more upcoming content and videos from this channel. Thanks again for watching, guys, and don't forget to catch The Strain, all new episodes on FX every Sunday. And, of course, until next time, may the Force be with you.